Good afternoon and welcome to the Day After podcast and our sub-show Pixar Sunday, where we watch and review every Pixar film in chronological order. On today's episode, we are tackling Inside Out, released in 2015, directed by Pete Docter, who you may also know as the director of Up.
I do want to say before I give any opinion about this movie, I absolutely applaud what it has done for kids' mental health and kids' psychologists across the globe. I've read reports and articles of a lot of kids' mental health facilities that are dramatically influenced by this movie, and it's really helped kids talk about their feelings and their emotions. So it has had that positive impact, and I do want to applaud the movie for that.
This movie is to emotion what Zootopia is to race relations.
Yeah, that doesn't scan.
No, really?
That
Okay.
doesn't scan.
We're not talking about Zootopia. We're talking about this. But Pete Docter, when he did Up did so well that they said, "Good job, Pete Docter. Do you want to go again? We'll let you make anything." And that's an overstatement for the sake of humor, but it allowed him to do not upsettingly, a very abstract story.
Yeah, and if we could tackle the positives of the movie first, because I do think there are plenty to talk about. I do like this idea. I like this idea of getting in people's heads and telling this the complex emotions of an 11-year-old girl as if they are characters. I do like that idea.
It's such a you could tackle this on a micro level about the individual characters, or on the larger scale, like how you love the creative strokes that while Riley is all over the place, the dad's and mom's emotions are just shades of them.
Yeah, there's several times in this movie there's little little seeds of kind of pure genius, like the time when they dive into mom and dad's heads, or the fact that Riley's emotions, they can only control Riley one at a time, where her parents
I didn't even notice that.
they present a unified thing. So there's this neat idea of maturity, and there is this this idea of like short-term memories being connected with different emotions, and memories forming your identity, which is something that's been talked about in philosophy classes I took in college.
Really?
Yeah, of memories form how we view the world and how we see the world, and that in essence becomes your identity. So there's a lot of really, really tough abstract stuff here that we have to present to kids, and it does okay.
So the goal, the finish line here is teaching kids, and I don't want to say that every Pixar movie is supposed to teach a kid something.
Yeah.
The finish line is that it is okay and often beneficial if you feel multiple Oh, I just noticed it's her learning to operate herself like the other ones do.
Yeah, it's her emotions getting more complex, and that's a natural part of growing up.
And you can see when joy and sadness leave, that disgust, fear, and anger, like, they take concrete turns. Like, let me try to fix it. Now let me try to fix it.
Yeah, and they do kind of scramble around, which is exactly what Riley is doing in that massive period of stress. But since you went there, let's talk about Joy.
Joy is voiced by Amy Poehler. My apologies to Amy Poehler. We thought it was Tina Fey the entire time.
Sorry about that.
Holy shit. She gets there.
Oh.
Unbearable first half hour. That's it. She's the worst kind of person. She like negs people. She says, "Oh God, you need to talk before I swear."
So, John and I have not different ways of reading this movie. I tend to view this movie through a lens that maybe it doesn't want me to, but whatever, I go with it. I like viewing the different emotions as iterations of Riley rather than their own characters. And I like this idea of Joy in that Riley is constantly forcing herself to be happy through both internal and external pressure. Internal pressure in that the other emotions have no idea what the fuck to do when Joy's not around. And external pressure, her parents literally ask her to be their happy girl.
Okay.
And so I like that, but it's when Joy kind of comes into her own, when she becomes her own character, that she becomes this weirdly catty, unpleasant character.
Well, before I take Joy to Cloud Town here, let me just I want to tackle what you said, because I think that you like them better when they're shades. I think that when you're born, you have these extremely distinct. Imagine the first time you were a kid and you're like, I feel really sad. What the hell is this? I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. It's very distinct.
Or the first time like you have a tantrum tantrum where you get so mad.
It's like, why am I pissed off? Like, but you learn a lot about, and at the end of this movie is learning about complex, double-faceted memories. That being said, oof, is it a tough first half hour?
Yeah, really, it's kind of this movie consistently. We saw it in theaters, and I've watched it a couple times since. This movie consistently leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and that kind of starts with Joy.
It's not really even a bad Ratatouille taste, because Ratatouille turns it around.
Yeah, and this one does too, but not as holistically as Ratatouille does.
You were waiting for Joy to get there.
Yeah, and yeah, Joy is, as for the Lens character, for the main protagonist,
I suppose
it's a little rough. She's a little rough choice. I don't know how else you could have done it, because I think it's important that, like, Joy does feel like she's constantly forcing herself, and we see that when she's finally in Forget Me Town. I don't know what the fuck that's called.
The dump?
Yeah. She does, like, break down and cry, and she's just like, I just wanted Riley to be happy. I thought that was the most important thing. And she realizes that, no, all of these emotions are appointment. You cannot just be happy all the time. That's an unhealthy way to live.
It just very slowly. It required 4 or 5 examples for Joy to realize that sadness has merit.
Yeah.
And the first big one is when you're like, okay, maybe this movie will turn it around. And the one that I got was, sorry that she forgot you, and that must have sucked.
Yeah.
And you know, it was all there, and then they took it, and that's shitty.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? It really was. There's the train station.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're talking about when she sits down with Bing Bong.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a really cute scene, and like again, it's Joy learning that the other emotions have merit. But like, think about that idea for a second. It is a character learning, like it meant take the emotions out of it. It is one character learning that the other people she works with matter.
It's sociopathic.
It's awful.
It's shitty. Oh, okay, I can understand. It's a younger child's inability to grasp the importance of emotional complexity, but it's still painful to be around for in narrative form.
And Joy is like a hyperbole of Riley learning how to deal with her emotions.
But
it's an okay vehicle, but ugh.
When you have to teach kids, it's okay that I don't want to say that it's okay. When you have to teach kids, you sometimes have to be a little blunt with it.
Yeah.
But as an adult who has already learned that it's okay to feel things, it's tough to get through. I personally have gone through a ton of life changes since the first time I watched this movie.
Yeah.
And I know now how important it is to feel sad, to allow somebody to feel sad. And when you're not doing it, you fuck it. Sorry.
Well, and Joy doesn't allow anything. And John feels really particularly strongly about that because of our mental health talks. So let's get away from the abstract a little bit and talk about the main plot point of the movie. We could talk about the other emotions as they come up, but my biggest absolute complaint in this movie is it's a slog.
Is it that they take too much time to get for? Go ahead.
Anytime we're not focusing on Riley and what she's doing, and like a direct one-to-one comparison of her head and then Riley and her head and then Riley, this movie is a slog. Why in the hell do we have to go on this massive adventure into long-term memory to get Riley to have complex emotions?
Okay, Stank acknowledged. No, legitimate criticism acknowledged. I want to make that clear.
Thank you.
That I had a problem with that. I used to think that I hate Homer's Odyssey movies where it's just get from point A to point B. But I think I hate bad ones. And when I turn this on, I'm like, why don't I remember any of this movie?
Yeah, it's not a Homer's Odyssey. It's we need to take them out of the plot so Riley can do stuff. And kids aren't going to pay attention if we're just stuck in one setting the whole time. So we got to go on an epic adventure and find Bing Bong.
Okay, that was Stank. Okay.
But how cool, and again, I don't want to fault this movie for not being what I want it to be, but how cool would it have been to have that massive fight all take place in Riley's head and have the other emotions called Joy out on the carpet saying, you are doing this wrong.
I think this movie is already taking a lot of risks, and I don't mean risks like, oh, look at how important what I'm talking about is.
Yeah.
Pete Docter loves geometric shapes and really abstract concepts.
Okay. But go on.
But so to have it all take place, to have it also be a bottle episode in one room might have been pushing it.
But okay, then what I said was not the ideal way to go. This was not either. This didn't work for me. Why go on this big, long, epic adventure through long-term memory?
To give some sense of physicality to the story, because I think that Pixar, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. If it weren't, even with the director Pete Docter having proven himself with Up, I still don't know how Pixar was like, yeah, let's do it. This was really experimental for them.
Yeah, this is a hard sell and a hard pitch. And yeah, I guess I remember feeling like there's a reason when I leave this movie I don't remember anything about the long-term memory segments because I don't really care about it. The what Riley goes through and her learning her emotions is so much more important than getting from all around the other islands.
Okay, now's
Can we talk about parts of this movie that are fucking insane?
Okay, so here's the thing: whose fucking fault was it? Whose idea? They're so. I love it. By the way, what is this absurdist humor?
Yeah, this is not a complaint. I'm just baffled.
It's so out of Pixar's wheelhouse. What is the idea of really bizarre gags that are played usually almost exclusively for laughs? The one that I could think of is when they had to take a shortcut trying to get back to headquarters. They go through the abstract thought tunnel.
Yeah.
And when they turn it on, they slowly begin mentally disassociating their ideas first into Picasso style
polygons.
Yeah, and then turning into shape and color, and then eventually becoming two-dimensional.
And then lines.
And when they come back out into the 3D world, Joy is still one of those little star shapes kind of walking like a person.
Yeah, and then they regain finally their forms again, and we don't ever talk about that again.
It's so weird because Pixar never tried to bump into that and do something like that again.
Yeah, and how Joy and Sadness get back to headquarters, we stack up 99 million fake boyfriends on top of each other, and Joy climbs on top of them, uses them as a ladder to jump onto the trampoline of the crumbling family island, catches Sadness in midair, and hits a window.
And that's with safe ideas like Cloud Island or here's a dream sitcom.
The dream movie.
Safer, more concrete ideas, but Pete Docter is a weirdo. I love him. Pete Docter, you crazy bitch.
These are not complaints, but I'm just like, what in the world? And to get the window open, disgust makes anger mad and uses his head to blow a hole through the window.
Really physical, weird jokes that if they were done by a studio like DreamWorks would come off as really sardonic and shitty.
Yeah.
But in small doses, Pixar's like, oh, we're dipping out of that pool. Let's do it.
And then it's like this movie has like 100 big-lipped alligator moments. And you're just like, what in the world? Oh, okay. Sorry, you wanted to go to the mainstays.
Oh yeah, welcome to Pixar Mainstays, where we talk about the things that show up in almost every Pixar movie. John Ratzenberg has a little tiny bit part at the end where he is installing the no longer burnt, crispy, hard control panel where they work, and it's got a puberty button and all sorts of curse words.
Yes, his name is Fritz.
His name is Fritz. Good job, Fritz. A113's really tucked away underneath some scaffolding in real world Riley's San Francisco area. She walks right past it. What's left? The Pizza Planet truck. I did not see it. It's supposed to be in one of the memories.
Oh, okay. So I would assume it would have been on San Francisco.
It could be anywhere. Somewhere. I'm gonna go find it, but it's tough.
Yeah.
Whew. Welcome back.
So I'm not gonna say I dislike this movie. I do have problems with it. It's the adventure sequence through long-term memory doesn't work for me. It doesn't. I don't know how else you were gonna tell the story, but that didn't gel with me.
I think that you could workshop it all you want, and you may eventually stomp on a thing. But it's like for the first time, I don't know what. From where I'm standing, I don't know where you could have gone in the immediate short term.
But I do love this. I love, number one, making kids think about themselves and think internally about how these work. I love this idea of personalities making up these personality islands which are driven by core memories that make up your identity. I think that's really interesting. I do have problems when this movie almost breaks its own rules, and without getting too nitpicky, I don't want to get CinemaSinsy, but this movie is almost begging to be slashed apart.
I think that it would keep anybody who is a fan of Cinema Sins from being able to enjoy this movie on any objective level.
And I'm not a fan of Cinema Sins, and it almost got me there.
I think that I know that this an idea like this does not need a one-to-one association for every little thing. Yes, the train of thought can be an actual train. The dump can be where shit is forgotten.
Yeah, that's fine. Those things serve a narrative purpose. But like the brain freeze thing, which I know is a little bit part, but you're like, okay,
That's
so
a
your
little
brain
weird.
is literally freezing. Why are these emotions iterations of Riley, or are they personifications of a singular emotion, or are they full characters with their own emotions? Joy cries.
That's actually one that
That's so weird to me.
for my money, that's the best scene in the movie.
It is the best scene because it makes this
It makes Joy's shittiness worth it.
yes,
Ugh.
and I just it's not worth. I love the ending. Oh my god, that Riley breaking down and she's like, "You cannot ask me to keep being happy." That I don't want to say that's an important scene, but boy is it powerful.
Yeah.
And her emotions getting more complex. I think that's powerful. I hate the journey to get there.
Hate, really.
No, hate's too strong a word.
It has problems.
I don't enjoy it.
Okay. Oh, that's perfect. Perfect. I definitely noticed. When last time I watched this movie, I didn't run a podcast where I talk and I really break it. But this needs a second watch because I watched it, forgot it all.
Yeah, and that to me should be a massive red flag for the movie. Is when I watch this, I forget most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about Bing Bong?
Yeah, let's do Bing Bong and then wrap up. I like Bing Bong. He's an imaginary character. He's fine. He stands for what I don't like in Pixar. We talked about this in Up. Here it comes again. It's called sad fetishism. I do not like people. Wow, that sounded shitty. I do not like the idea that Pixar should stand for, among other things, how well it makes you cry. And I think they can handle emotions like when Joy cries, but when the pivotal scene where Bing Bong sacrifices himself to make it back out of the dump, that people on the internet were like, that was a really sad moment. It's nowhere near as sad as I remember it.
Yeah, and I remember when this movie first came out, all of the memes of like, oh, hashtag remember Bing Bong.
No.
I mean, number one, we didn't know him for that long. We didn't have the connection with him, and I think it's more of a callback to, oh, remember your imaginary friends? That's fine. Make that callback, and yes, acknowledge that they fade, but to build it up like that, to have your whole music transition, and to just like linger on it for as long as you do.
Bing Bong is not. He could have been an objectively stupid character.
Yeah,
but he's fun and he's kind of like clumsy, but he's not an objectively shitty character. So like you do have to wrangle him in, but Richard Kind did a really good job, by the way. He's definitely portraying his silly elephant.
Oh yeah. Another complaint I have this movie. So a lot of these people are voiced by comedians. They never stop talking.
In the beginning, it's tough because they all are fighting for audio time, and it's like a 50s soundtrack. You need to back off.
Yeah.
Which leads to the best scene in the movie when nobody's talking.
Right.
I think overall, this was a good idea. I mean, I'm glad, like every Pixar movie there, I'm glad that I actually took a step and went through it.
Yeah.
It's good teaching tool. That's my message. Pete Doctor, keep making weird shit. If something could be a good teaching tool and weird as fuck, I'm on board. Do it again.
I like this movie's idea. I like this movie's message. I like this movie's ending. I don't like this movie, if that makes sense. I just the constant like pulling it like with my biggest complaint about Bing Bong is like sad fetishism in a movie all about how complex emotions are. Like let kids feel what they want to feel and let you don't have to steer me in a direction. The jokes are great when they're not distracting. And I think this story does need told, and I think this is an okay way to tell it, but it's totally your mileage may vary.
It's got 9 different wheels, and Pete Docter didn't grease all of them, but yeah. I like that. Thank you guys for joining us on the 15th chronological Pixar film, Inside Out, released in 2015 by Pete Docter. Join us in 1 week where we are discussing the other film that came out in 2015, The Good Dinosaur, a blind watch on both parts.
Yes, this is the first one we've never seen.
Oh, it's gonna be weird. I'm looking at it right now, and it's gonna be a journey. But we have nothing planned because we don't know what's coming. But thank you for joining us on this especially short Pixar podcast.